NightChild reviews Prince, and today we're going to be talking about a maxi-single, the Cream maxi-single. We're going to go into a little bit of the history of the project, our initial thoughts and appreciation of this project. Then we're going to go track by track, going through each of the 9 tracks, the 38 minutes on this maxi-single, practically an album's worth of material. We're going to go track by track, and then we're even going to give it a rating. So let's dive deep and let's go straight into Cream, the maxi-single. Cream was released in 1991, part of the Diamonds and Pearls album. It was a huge hit. It reached #1 on the US Billboard Top 100 and became the last of Prince's singles to reach the #1 in America. He's had other #1s since, and notably in Britain with The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. But this was Prince at the height of his commercial peak. The success of Diamonds and Pearls, hitting that magic 5 million album copies sold marker, meant that the following year in 1992 he could go with Warner Brothers and say to them, I want the biggest deal that has ever been seen by an artist at that time. I want $100 million. And this was based largely in part on the premise that Prince could sell 5 million copies of each album. Sadly, Diamonds and Pearls was the last time in the 1990s he managed to do this, but this was at that moment Prince at his complete commercial peak. Get Off with a huge hit, Cream, Money Don't Matter Tonight. These were the time when Prince was at the top of the charts. He was releasing incredibly expensive videos, and he was at the top of his game. Now, some people criticise Diamonds and Pearls and say this is too commercial. This is Prince just selling out to the masses. This is Prince trying to be popular. There are times in Prince's career when he really tries for that, and times when he perhaps goes to a different path, like the Rainbow Children or the News album. But this is something to enjoy. This is when Prince was reaching an audience that he hadn't reached for a long time, when lots of people who weren't even Prince fans were aware of Prince, were talking about Prince, talking about the video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the first track, which is Cream, which is obviously taken straight from the album Diamonds and Pearls, and here's Cream. Now, Cream is a self-empowerment song. This is a song specifically designed to make you feel good. It's very much in the vein of Push or in Walk, Don't Walk, a song about you can do anything, you can reach the top, you are master of your own destiny. It's fantastic. I do like the general theme of the song. It starts off with this amazing beat, this really powerful big electronic beat, and then you have these squelchy guitars come in and they weave in and around the beat, and it's just sort of builds and builds. You have the kind of sexual, how else can you describe it? It's Prince. It's who knows? You can't even describe it. It's just Prince. He makes these noises that no one else can make. It's just it's a really fantastic feel to the song. It's just the guitars, the backing vocals, everything pulls together to really make this just a vibrant song. You've got the interplay between the female backing vocalist and Prince, and that really works on a lot of the chorus lines. I just love the way Prince will sing a line like, "You're so good," and the guitar will just answer him, "duh, duh," and he'll sing a line like, "You will hit," and the guitar just, "duh, duh," just answers him. It's got this fantastic bassy guitar that just chugs along in the background, the deep squelchy guitar. Overall, you've got these really smart, just perfect pop synth stabs which just go throughout the track that really lift this track. This is a track that there are very few songs that make you feel better than Cream. It's also quite interesting, in the second verse you have the interplay with the female backing vocalist, where Prince will say something like, "Ain't nobody better," and the female backing vocalist will respond to that, "Ain't nobody better." It's just, it's perfect pop construct. It is something that is designed to be successful, designed to be popular. It's a universal message, and I think this became a #1 and Get Off didn't. That's not to say that this is a better song than Get Off. I think it's just that this has a more universal appeal. Get Off, with its sexual imagery, perhaps push some people slightly to one side, the general public, the people who perhaps not always Prince fans. So I think this has a great vibe to it, a really great vibe, and this is clear that Prince and Warner Brothers felt a great deal for this song, and particularly Prince when he decided to make a maxi-single, 9 tracks, based originally from this song. Not everyone is a fan though of this song. Matt Thorne, in his book Prince, which is an excellent book which we'll be reviewing later, states that the problem with Cream, if we're considering it as art instead of produce, is that much like Kiss, it seems precision tooled for mass success, yet feels empty. I've heard Prince play it so often in concert that I've grown to hate it. It's always a dead spot in audience recordings and shows. But just when I thought this was the one song Prince could never improve by changing it, he began playing it in aftershows last year, letting new Power Generation member Frederic Yone gussy up the song with harmonica solos, changing it from its original Mark Bolan or Chuck Berry feel into loose jazz. Prince has often said that he wrote this song whilst looking in the mirror. I think many times during concerts he said, I wrote this while looking in the mirror. And it's that kind of gentle mocking, and there's a lot of humour in this maxi-single. There are a number of phone calls, and at the end of this first track there was the first of the phone calls. They're basically Prince pretending to be like a telemarketer, phoning up people and asking them what they think of Cream. And the first phone call that he makes is he just phones up somebody and they say, well, I haven't got time to talk about that. And he goes, well, you spent a few seconds already saying that, you could have just answered my question. So he just phones people up, and he sort of generally he's either rude to them or takes the mick out of them, and kind of reveals kind of the great humour that Prince has in his work. And I think this is a display throughout the album for a number of phone calls, so we'll look at those as they arise. Now the second song on this maxi-single is Cream, the NPG mix, and it starts off with a voiceover saying, "This is Prince," and also Arsenio Hall saying, "Prince and the new Power Generation," and it's just an incredibly busy track. You've got these little horn stabs, and you've got a lot of scratching. There's a lot of scratching on the album, like kind of DJ work where Prince will reverse the tape or scratch the tape, and it does mean the track does become a little cluttered. Now it makes it more up tempo because you're putting this drum beat over a busy drum beat over Cream. You're kind of pushing it and giving it a vibrancy and a pace and a relentless pace. So it does make it more up tempo, but there's a lot going on here, a lot thrown in. Now I am never ever one to criticise or hope that any Prince track could be shorter. I always want the fullest experience I can, the longest experience I can. However, with this track, probably I would say about 3:15, 3:35, it starts to build and it kind of lifts up, and then about 3 minutes 30, the track is largely done. The track goes on for 5 minutes 44 seconds, although the last part of that is one of the joke phone calls. But it does repeat itself after that point, and the main thrust of the song is done by 3 minutes 30. It's much more up-tempo mix, and it's just kind of to give it a kind of more of a club feel, I suppose. At the end of the track, you have probably the best phone call Prince does, where he phones up somebody and they say, "Have you heard of new single Cream? And do you know Prince?" And the guy says, "Yeah, Prince, I know him, I raised him." I go, "Well, do you like the song Cream?" He goes, "No, I don't like it. I don't like anything Prince has ever done. It's all sex, sex, sex. It sells the wrong message to young people. It makes kids grow up, unwanted." And they get into a bit of an argument where Prince says, "Well, I guess you have a personal problem with that." And the guy responds, "Well, I don't have a personal problem. You have a personal problem." And Prince is like, "What kind of life you live? What kind of life are you living?" And it just descends into kind of a bizarre farce. But overall, it's a cluttered track. It's very busy and upbeat, and it gives it a nice pace. But could have been a couple of minutes shorter. Now the third song on this maxi-single is called "Things Have Got to Change," and this has some interesting synthesizer work and is quite instrumental, but it also has a lot of Tony M. Now your opinion on this track, I think, will be determined about what you think about Tony M. This is, I don't think, his finest hour. I think he's better on tracks like Deuce and a Quarter or Together. It does seem kind of fairly generic rap, and it chugs along nicely, but ultimately I think I would never ever say you should leave a song off an album, because I think some song I might not care for might be someone's favourite song. It might be the song that they think is fantastic, and equally somebody may not care for a song and I may think that's brilliant, that's fantastic. So I think you should always have, always want to have the Prince songs, and I can make up my own mind, and everybody can make up their own mind and decide whether they like that song or not. So I think you should never say, perhaps a song should be left off an album. Always make up your own mind, but I think this is probably, I would say, the weakest track on this maxi-single. It does suffer from a certain amount of repetition, and after about 2 minutes 30, the song has pretty much run its course. The fourth song is called To The Wire, and it's the creamy instrumental, as we were reminded. Now this is where the album takes a little bit of a change in direction. It's very much a keyboard solo. There's some interesting effects. Perhaps the keyboards put through some pedals, some interesting effects that Prince has put on the keyboards. The keyboard solo is fantastic. It's nice to see sort of Prince just breathe and spread out the music. I would say there's a little bit of repetition in this, but it's still class. It's an interesting instrumental, and this, I think, really is the first half of a later song, which we'll get to. But it's a nice change of pace and a nice change of instrumentation. I love it when Prince does instrumentals. I think sometimes they are just so moving and they are so impressive. So I really think it's good to give it a bit of time and to enjoy this track. Now, track number 5 is called Get Some Solo, and it's only 1 minute 31 long. But this is a fantastic song. This is Prince noodling on the guitar. It starts off with his amazing female moan, which is just, and a scratch, which is just so cool. So it's just scratching this female kind of moan. It is Prince just letting it go, just getting on the guitar, just cool, kind of jazzy, laid back, experimental. I just love it when Prince does this. He just lets it go. He just plays on the guitar like he's just sitting in the studio late at night, or he's just sitting in your front room, and he's just letting it go. He's just no set target. He's just letting the instrument do the talking. It's just relaxed. This is 1 minute 31, but this is so cool, and for such a short song, this is a great song. Just chill. There's nice bell effects on this, just little tiny bells playing in the background, just jangling along, and it's look out for that if you're listening to it on headphones. Now, track number 6, Do You Dance? This is where Cream is basically a distant memory. There is the odd lyric from Cream, based on which bases the track, the Do You Dance. But this is the point where Prince has just let it go. You've had the last couple of tracks being instrumental and a bit slowed down. This is when Prince just lets it go. He just basically, I've had my break, I've had a breath, the album's had a breather, and now I'm going to hit it hard and I'm going to go crazy. Everything's on there. You've got the amazing backing vocals, you've got deep Prince backing vocals, you've got to sing in his falsetto, you've got to sing in his normal voice, you've got to sing in down low. He is everywhere. This song has the kitchen sink thrown at it. You've got amazing vocals, guitar work, synthesizers. This has everything on it. This is a completely different track to anything else. Now, I understand the Peach and Black guys quite like, I know one of them, I think it's Captain, quite likes, I think it's Do Your Dance, and Get Some Solo possibly. But it's just, it's a whole interesting play on Cream. We've got backing vocals by Jovetta Steele. We've got, this is the Casey's mix, so this is Keith Cohen, Casey's mix, and it's just got everything in it. It's just thrown the works at it. It's a very busy track, and it can be a little bit repetitive. I mean, it's 6 minutes, but there's a lot going on here and a lot to enjoy. It's very upbeat, very joyous track. I would say that this is kind of the point where this is almost unconnected to Cream. Yes, it's based on the lyric, but really this is a whole new song that Prince has allowed someone else to co-produce and put their spin on it. Now, track number 7 is called House Bangers, and this is effectively a kind of run-on from Do Your Dance. It repeats the Do Your Dance refrain, and it's fairly similar. It's quite mechanical. I would say that perhaps there's a few nice touches. There's Tommy Barbarella tripping on the purple axe, and there's a few kind of nice touches with the synthesizers and with the drum beats. But really, this is quite similar to Do Your Dance. There's an interesting drum loop, but I would probably say this is not significantly different from Do Your Dance. This is more like the Do Your Dance instrumental. There is vocals on it, but it's almost like Prince has taken up a large chunk of the Do Your Dance and kind of made a pared down version of the Do Your Dance track. Track number 8 is called Q in Doubt. It's another instrumental, and this is effectively, I think, Get Some Solo Part 2. This is where Prince can just relax and stroll about and noodle on his guitar. Some fantastic guitar work, and quite frankly, this is a really brilliant track. This is the kind of track where you imagine Prince just strolling about with his guitar, just enjoying himself, just having fun, not with a set destination in time, and it's a really nice track. It starts off fairly slow and then builds and builds and builds, and it's just the beauty of the guitar work that really is the star in this track. That's what makes it so fantastic. I would say though, as it's very similar to Get Some Solo, I'm wondering if that's just Prince doing this for pacing. Perhaps he didn't want, perhaps he wanted to slow down the album at this point instead of putting the two tracks together, which I can kind of see. Track number 9 is called The Ethereal Mix. Now I have a strange, bizarre love for this track. This is a track that doesn't really have much to it. It's quite mechanical, it's quite thudding. You've got the kind of scratch and the female moan, and there's just do do do. It's very repetitive, almost house music like. This is a song that doesn't really have a lot to it, yet it is one of my favourites. My YouTube channel is called NightChild Ethereal. It's just, there's something about this. There's the eerie backing synth strings. They're very reminiscent of Batman. It kind of gives you an eerie, atmospheric mood. And it just moves about and lifts you, and it's just a very strange feeling, a very cold, digital kind of electronic feeling, but it is also eerie. It's a little bit like the future, reminds me of the future. It's not very long, and yet there's something about this. At the end it sort of goes much more into almost repetitive house music, but there's something to it that, even though it's very simple and there's very little to it, that I just find quite compelling, and I really don't know why, but I'm enjoying it. Then we have the fun joke phone call of the Maxi-Single, where Prince phones up a lady and says, "You heard the single Cream?" And she said, "Yeah, I like it. It's a neat song. I like the song." And they say, Prince says, "I hear that your brother is in his band." And she goes, "Well, who's this?" And he goes, "Well, I'm afraid he's in a little trouble right now." And then he just hangs up, just leaving her in a kind of state of, "Who's this guy who's just phoned me? What's happening with my brother?" It's kind of Prince's interesting humour. We're going to give this Maxi-Single a rating. Now, bear in mind, this is not a rating compared to albums. This is just a rating of how it stands as a Maxi-Single. I think this has some interesting points. I think this has some great guitar work, some great sort of laid-back, jazzy noodling. I think Cream was a very successful, obviously, a single. And there's some interesting kind of up-tempo numbers and the do dance. The Get Some Solo though, Get Some Solo, tuned out, the kind of instrumentals are actually the star, really, of this Maxi-Single. 38 minutes long. This is, quite a lot of work Prince has put into this. This is, 8 minutes longer than Dirty Mind. But this, I think the instrumental parts where he just breathes and stretches and just allows himself to explore musically are probably the most interesting parts of this album. You've obviously got Cream, the single, but I think things got to change. Do You Dance, they're fine for what they are. They can be a little repetitive, and they're also not necessarily the most original works Prince has done, but really the star of this is the instrumental work. It's just, it's really worth listening to. I would say this album really would probably have to be around about a 7.5 maybe a 7. This is a competent album, an interesting album, has lots of humour in it, and it has lots of interesting touches, but those touches don't necessarily amount to hugely successful songs. There's not any songs on here which would stand up to most Prince B-sides or songs in their own right. Some people would argue Do You Dance, but I'm not entirely sure it does. I think the stars of this show are the instrumental work, and I think that's really the great thing about this. But check it out, give it a listen. If you've already got it, let me know what you think about the Maxi-Single. If you haven't got it, then perhaps check it out, and let us know in the comments what you think about it. Really appreciate that. Thank you.